So, at some point during this class, if it hasn't been asked already, the question is going to be asked, why don't we just save this as our startup file and then we've got all our materials that we want? And I strongly discourage that. The reason being, as you build up a library of more and more and more materials, okay, this file is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it's going to start affecting the performance of Blender while you're trying to work, and the speed is going to start lagging as you're trying to model and things like that, because all of these materials will be loaded into memory. So it's better to keep this as a separate file, one that you're not using for production, that you can then append materials from into your project. So that's why we wouldn't use it as a startup file. It's just going to eventually hog up so much memory that Blender isn't going to perform well for you. Keep it as a reference file. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, okay. So we did this cloth drop and smooth shading. It's going to look a bit jaggy. Okay. One of the things we can do for the preview to make that look better, and indeed we can do this for baking as well, is we go to Modifiers tab and we add a subdivision surface modifier, and we change the viewport quality so they're both 2. Okay, you see how much smoother this is looking, and this is actually a good tip for baking when you've got kind of like the jagged edges like that. Add a subsurface modifier, bake your texture. Okay, you can then delete the modifier, and that baked texture applied to the lower poly model will look much better. What else? Right, yeah. Okay. Blender, as we know, is free, and it is a wonderful free community, and there's a lot of people who will release files, models, materials, free to use and free to do what you want with. How do we deal with them? Absolutely. Although we have been and we will continue to learn more and more different materials, because the more we understand about all of this, the better we will be. And sometimes, the materials you find aren't just quite right. And if you don't understand them, how can you change them? So, although we'll be doing more work, I still have nothing against, using materials that other people have made. Models, mostly I do. I think that's a complete cheat. But materials, I've nothing against it. So, if anyone's not aware of it, there is a website called blendswap.com, which is all free Blender files. Okay, they do have some different attributions. We'll talk about that in a minute. And although we got this down here, it is actually free to use. You will need to register an account. I'm already signed in. Okay, but if we go to blends, for example, we go to Surface, let's go to all blends. Okay, there are thousands and thousands of files and models on here to, that are free to use. Now, I say free to use, they're all Creative Commons licensed, but Creative Commons has different license levels. Some of them you have to attribute the original creator, but the ones that are completely free without attribution are labeled CC0. Okay, as opposed to CC BY, or there is another BYSA. The CC0 ones are free. Okay, so what you could do is search for something like shaders. Okay, so we've only got 2 pages. Okay, but if we say, for example, this is CCBY, I was going to use this, we will use this as an example. Okay, CCBY, if you're unsure of the license, let's open this up. Brings us this page. CCBY, let's do a search on that. CCBY license. What does CCBY means? It's a license that requires attribution of a work by. The work can be used for any purpose and modified so long as attribution is made. So it has to be attributed. Well, actually, so let's find a CC0 file. What have we got? Let's have a look on page 2. Procedural dirt. Okay, so let's say we open up this file. CC0, we can go ahead and download it. Thing we're going to be looking for always is the render engine, and we want cycles. We don't want Eevee, or we don't want Blender internal. We want cycles. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. And while it's downloading, let me just clear a bit of room here. Let me open this Dirtblend. Just going to quickly drag this onto my desktop. And let's open it. And we can have a look at what the materials are in there. And when Blender stops freezing, there we go. Alright, so we've got quite a complex node set up here. To copy it wouldn't be that nice to do. And we've got, this is actually, I can tell this is from 2.79 file because of the tabs up here are different. But anyway, let's look at the materials. We're not going to worry about that. We've got a material called dirt in there, so that's fine. Let me close this file. Alright, let me come back to my materials file. And let's append in this dirt. Actually, let's hide this cloth first. So we're left with this. And let's append in this dirt file. Append. Let's go to my desktop. And it was called Dirtblend. Double click that. Probably because this is rendering that this is taking its time. Okay, let's put this in the solid view. File. Append. Let's go back to my desktop, pick up that dirt file, double click on that, then material, and there is a dirt. I can append that in. Right, let's come back to the material tab. Let's go to render view. I've got my solid model selected. Let me pick up this dirt material. And there we go. Scale's looking big on this. I could probably change the scale on this. Let me turn it back to solid view. Turn that to render view. Let's change up to 5, say. I think we need this a lot more like 50. It's not great material. I'm not that fond of this material, but it was an example. We can see how we can append other materials in and use them. Okay, so BlendSwap is a good place to get find other materials. And you don't have to just search for materials or shaders. You know, you can search by files and find a file. Well, actually, for example, on the title page, this will change, by the way, but I've seen this kind of aluminium look. It's completely different license. However, I like that aluminium, and I could download that file and append that in and use that in something else or add it to my library. But always be aware of the license. So yeah, that is our material library. How to make one, how to append files in and out of it, and how to append them into a new file. Let's turn this back to the wood. Okay, so that's material library.